Most people chase the dividend yield. Higher the better, a lot of people think, but actually you need to look at reliability. High yield does not mean good income. It actually means that probably the stock or the fund is going to do pretty bad. And yeah, some ETFs look great on paper. Some may pay a good yield, but it may well evaporate. Or more often than not, you may have a tax problem with withholding tax depending on what country you're in. So we're going to look at why people use dividend ETFs as a bit of a comfort blanket for longer term wealth. We're going to look at the taxation mistake that people get themselves into by buying the wrong type of fund, and the types of dividend ETFs that you should realistically be looking at long term if you want to get good results. Now, to set a little bit of ground rules here, I do have dividend funds. You know this if you follow my channel. Feel free to follow along, like the video, and comment if you do have dividend ETFs on which funds do you like and which ones do you have as well. I obviously have a couple, and we'll talk about the three that I have in more detail in a second, so bear with me. But the reason why this is good for anyone, whether you're a beginner or experienced, it's passive income without the obvious stock picking, right? That's the crux of it, okay? Now, there's many to choose from, and it is obviously diversification very much instantly. I'll give you one example, the all-world dividend yield fund here. It's doing okay, but you've got a lot of different stocks in here. You've got many in the allocation, and that's just one part of it, the top 10 holdings. In terms of its sectors, it's got a mixture of all, and also, yes, you could argue diversification across multiple countries, but not all. But it's a good starting point. This is a lot less stressful than picking out 20-odd, 30-odd, 40-odd stock. Now, I do follow a lot of dividend content creators, and some of them over the course of years just accumulate, and they never sell, and they just keep buying. And all of a sudden, you've got like 40 or 50 assets, and it becomes a bit of an issue, okay? You do not want to get destroyed by overdoing it and overcooking it when you have individual stocks, because it becomes a little bit messy. I have 9 holdings. 3 of them are funds, 6 of them have stocks. It's a hell of a lot easier to manage, boys and girls. I'll tell you that for free. So yeah, it makes it simple. But these will work perfectly well in your stocks and shares ISA. But later down the line in this video, I will talk about withholding tax, which is a bit of a thing that people forget about. However, that's been said, dividends and ETFs alone are not really that exciting, but usually boring money makes money. And I will prove this in this video because some of these funds did well when the rest of the market did very bad. Now, the psychological factor here, and on the screen is my snowball analytics, and this is based on my own portfolio here. The thing is, right, income is powerful. It really is. And this is what I struggle for people to kind of grasp in terms of when I elaborate on this. Because when you are 100% portfolio in growth, which i.e. your Nvidias, your Microsoft, your Apple, Amazon, growth stocks, cyclical stocks that are a bit mental, right? I do own Bitcoin, you know this. That's a growth engine, right? When you talk about income, it's different because income is cash flow without selling. You do not have to take profit to get that cash. You can reinvest it or spend it. Very simple. Now, this is my own portfolio here. You can see by 2030, which isn't that far away, I will potentially, off these numbers, I know I'll get probably blown off course, right? But even if I reinvest the dividends and if I reinvest and keep investing in the market, I will be getting nearly £10,000 on average, right? That's huge. This alone will help people stay invested even during drawdowns. That is the big, big thing here. And I think people forget that because it makes the investing journey feel real because you are putting money in and you're getting money out realistically. And you build that quicker. And that's what I can't compute in my brain when people tell me that growth stocks are the best. But then I talk to other people about it, or even them, and I say, have you taken profit yet? Have you rewarded yourself yet? Have you built something with that fund, right? And for me, I know I talk about Bitcoin, but Bitcoin has changed my life because that gave me funds to buy a bigger house, build a family, build an online journey, right? If I didn't invest and take that punt, cool. But you've got to have a blend of both. You've got to have a growth engine and an income engine. You will eventually amalgamate both of them, and it makes sense because you will get on that journey. It will happen. You will be in ETFs in the growth world that give you a 1% yield. Great. It's not amazing. But when you get into these ETFs, about 4%, 3%. But they are a lot more steady in terms of their makeup, which makes sense. What is withholding tax? Now, I'm going to give you it blunt. It's tax taken before a dividend hits your account. So it's a little bit better. You don't have to do a self-assessment for this. These are very common in US stocks and global funds. You will probably have noticed this in any of your ETFs anyways, right? And this will still apply, obviously, in a nice. You can see on the screen here, withholding tax 15%. Not crazy, I know. But it does reduce the yield a little bit, obviously. So got to remove that leakage a little bit. So it's not crazy, but it does happen. And this is the thing, right? This fund here doesn't have it. We'll talk about that fund in a minute. The All World Fund doesn't have it. But this one does, because it is created in another country. So you will find that some of your stocks and shares ISA platforms will have a thing called a London Stock Exchange, or a little bit of research to be able to tell whether that is in that country. Quite a lot of funds, you will know this, as I say, will have withholding tax. So not all. 2 of them, for mine, don't. That's good. So there's only 1 that does. That's fine. Try and do a little bit of research first. You may get an equivalent fund or equivalent ETF or whatever that will not have the withholding tax. But what I will say about trading 2-on-2 doesn't really tell you very obviously, right? That's a problem. If you go in the US, you'll know there'll be withholding tax on any dividends. Most of these tech stocks won't have the dividends. That's fine. But when you go on like most traded, for example, right, and you go down a little bit, you'll start to notice physical gold, for example. You know, funds there, the All World Accumulation Fund. You will know that most of these probably will have an element of withholding tax on them. So you need to do a little bit of research. Not all, obviously, but if they are very, very heavy, or if they are created in other countries, and I will showcase in a minute where you can find it, you're going to have withholding tax. Now, I'm not going to sit here and say which one's the best fund. Not financial advice. I'm going to give you an option of a number of them which are decent and what to look out for when you are looking at funds. Now, I'll be openly honest here. I think a lot of dividend funds are under the radar. I think there's some fantastic ones out there. You know, what I often say to people, if you're a beginner, go on Just ETF, which is on the screen, and look at what is popular. Look at how much money is in certain funds. And then you'll be like, oh, that looks good. And you'll see the performance and where the most of the wealth is. Mainly the All World funds, mainly the S&P, the NASDAQ, whatever, right? But when you go a little bit more niche, you're going to start noticing where things go and money, right? So for me, this is my favorite. And I've already alluded to it. It does have withholding tax. The reason why I know this, and it's very, very simple, the country it's in. And you'll know very quickly, if you scroll down and you look at these, you want to find out where is it actually living. Well, it's actually in Netherlands. So anything that's out of the UK kind of territory, guess what? You're going to pay withholding tax. Now, the thing with this fund, the actual fee for it isn't terrible. Now, a lot of funds, essentially, when you go down the niche world, you will find that sometimes you may find that these per annum ratios are nearly 1%. Or 0.6 or 0.75, whatever it may be. 0.38% isn't bad. Obviously, you've got to take in consideration there is also withholding tax here. But the performance of this fund alone is brilliant. And this is my favorite one. This one for me, as I say, is a good one. Now, you can look at the holdings, you can look at the overall metrics of what it's in it, the diversification because it's across Europe, the financial side of it, and its overall performance. Obviously, past results don't indicate future performance, and its dividend yield is actually quite high. 3.48% yield, which is huge, and obviously the growth performance of this fund is fantastic. Now, this one, for me, is better long-term stability because it's a bit more niche, and it only has 100 kind of holdings. It does have a really good yield, obviously. This is probably good for a bit of longevity sort of vibes because it is focusing on the developed markets and the dividend leaders of those markets. So it's basically like one of the funds I want to showcase in a minute in terms of the leaders that have paid dividends for years, and yonks, literally, quite literally, but in Europe. It makes it obvious, but it is a really good yield. It's a settling yield and it's physical. It distributes it. There's a decent chunk of money in here. It's actually one of the most popular ones out there and it's only got 100 in here. So it's not crazy, but it's not too low. Don't go too low. It will become a bit. Honestly, there's some funds out there with about 5 holdings. If you go down like the biofuel situation, it doesn't really become a fund in that sense. Now, another one that I alluded to before was the UK one, specifically the UK. Now, if you know this, The FTSE 100 is doing brilliant. It really is. It's one of the top performing at the minute. This does have a higher per annum fee, which is fine, 0.4%. There's no withholding tax on this, so it's a little bit better. These are UK only. The strong FTSE names, right? You will see them very clearly. Its performance has been great over the last God knows how long, but the fund is actually down on its inception because it came out literally as the financial crash happened in 2008, pretty much. So it is mainly the UK. There's some big, obvious stocks here. Yes, if you are buying UK individual stocks, you don't want to dilute too much. I don't have too many of them in mine anyways. But overall performance has been really good. Apart from 2022, realistically here, it's been okay, give or take. And overall, 2025, it's been stonking. So yeah, the thing with a lot of these is obviously dividend yield's a bit interesting. Obviously, it was about 6%. Now it's, 4.81, which isn't bad. But overall, that is a current yield. That will fluctuate. You're never, ever going to get that yield. It's normally what it's actually producing down below. Obviously, yes, you can see certain things, but the volatility of this fund is brilliant. This is why I like them more. Because yes, you do have UK concentration. Yes, they are slower versus growth funds. But sometimes you don't want volatility. Sometimes you just want stability. And if you're going to get a 4 or 5% yield based off this, that's good. That's better than some properties, realistically. It's crazy. Now, the obvious one is global exposure. This is the all-world high dividend yield. So if you've heard of the all-world fund, which I do talk about a lot, you got two. You got this one, which is obviously the dividend side, and you got the all-world fund, which includes non-dividend paying stocks. You have tech stocks, basically. This has got 2,219 holdings, okay? It's global income exposure to the entire world with dividends. Great. It does have high yield as well, considering. It's a very, very popular ETF starter if you want dividends. There may be some withholding tax, but I don't think there is on this one. But realistically, be careful which one you go for. As I say, look to see where it actually is. But for me, for fundamentals, it's a bit cheaper. It's 0.29%. It might be a bit lower now because Vanguard has reduced its fees a little bit, so maybe have a bit of a double check. It is kind of put in Ireland, so there may not be any withholding tax. But overall diversification, it's got some. Quite a lot of it's heavy in the US, though, but ultimately, performance has been pretty good. As you can see, other funds have performed better than this, but realistically, it hasn't produced any red for a while, which is pretty good if you are thinking, I want to outperform the world of inflation. You do get a roughly around 3%, you could probably argue, yield here, which isn't bad. I'd be happy with that. So yeah, good income, good stability, has grew as well. Not making mega money, but it's keeping your money in the green. It is also the least volatile. Now let's look at this one. This is a GBDV, which is basically the global dividend aristocrats, which I can't really say very well. Basically, these are like the funds that have paid dividends on a consistent basis for yonks, years. I think it's 25 years plus potentially, maybe more. I don't know. Anyways, either way, all right, let's talk about it. This is more sustainable. These are the ones, and you'll see the funds, what's in the fund, sorry, the quality stocks. Smoother income profile, obviously, and there's a less likelihood of, it being totally cut away. If dividends are cut from these companies, they will be removed from the fund, pretty much. Decent amount of size, cool, but the fund is a little bit more expensive now. 95 holdings, but it has performed very, very well. As you can see, the diversification, a little bit kind of, some really, really top stocks in there that have been around for the yonks. And as I say, you do get a bit of a different profile. These type of stocks, funds, essentially, or like, any sort of dividend stock like this, until they've been a long-term growth payer, they don't perform very well on growth, as you can see. But the yield does make up for it because it is a 4.13%. Could actually be higher in certain cases. So this is a lot more stable. Not much growth, not much drawdown. So this one may well tickle your fancy. But yes, we're talking similar sort of volatility vibes as the previous one. But just to go through a little bit more research, obviously investing.com is a good platform to look at more data. But if you're looking at more the technical side, you can on here. I do a lot of technical analysis in my other channels and stuff. But when we're looking at like longevity of stuff like this, you will find that it can become a bit mental that these don't do lots of growth. This is why permanent, like reinvesting in dividends and getting the yield and growing your funds with stability, you haven't lost loads of money here. You've probably made some money, but you've not lost the cart, if that makes sense. Because what I said before at the start of the video, a lot of people talk about, oh, well, great, dividends, great, high yield, boom. Some people genuinely put money into stocks that are like down 40% over the course of a year and make 4% yield thinking they're doing well. Don't do that. This kind of highlights how hard dividends can be for sticking with it. And yeah, that just gives you a bit of an idea. Not the best chart in the world, by the way, just saying. But you can see obviously what happened here with COVID. But realistically, quite a lot of you are reinvesting the dips. As you can see, it can be a bit mental, but very, very different game. Although if it breaks out of here, up we go. Now, BlackRock have also offered this fund for a while, World Quality Dividend Advance. Basically, long story short, top quality stock. Now, there's some random ones in here. There's Nvidia in here, for example. Now, quite a lot of these are solid, profitable, healthy balance sheet companies, realistically. Less yield chasing, more probably defensive in a way, but got good growth. So this one's kind of like a quality and growth tilt of company and obviously dividends as well. So you're going to notice, as I'm going to say it, some really mental stocks in here. And I'm going to do it. I'm going to say it. Look at that. You got Apple, you got Nvidia. Yeah. They are quite new in terms of paying dividends, quite small, but they're probably going to grow their dividend yield over the course of time. So this one could be a very, very interesting one to watch. But as you can see, it will be very, very heavily weighted on the obvious in the room here. Growth. Yield's quite low, 2.29%, so that might put people off. But it could be a one that could be a slow growth. It could just grow their dividends over the course of time by what stocks are in here. So yeah, I always say to people, buy top quality companies. It makes life so much easier. And the final one is FLXX, basically another quality dividend fund sort of situation. Similar sort of vibes as the last one. Only has 98 holdings though. That could be a problem, but it's quite a small fund as well. Okay. So it's one of those. It does, however, tick all the right boxes. It does have low volatility, which is important. It has produced a lot of good growth over the course of the last few years. And it does have some element of diversification. You do have Japan in here, Australia, you have obviously Switzerland and other countries, only 54% of it America, which is good considering some funds are heavily America these days. But as you can see, over the course of time, growth has been pretty good. Even when most are red on 2022, this has actually been green. So that's important. Dividend yield is all right, realistically, not crazy. But again, the volatility, not too terrible. But again, it's a situation where everyone's got a different opinion on certain things. But for me, it's another quality one, and the ratio in terms of the expenditure of what you're going to be, spending for the fund isn't too bad. But yeah, for me, and how I think about using these, and I would probably buy every single one of these if I could, but don't have too many. It's good to have a mix of the UK and obviously the global market. Of course, you don't want to be too heavy in one and light in the other, for example. And you do need income. You do need to have a fund that does pay you as well, because the benefits of being paid is obviously you got stability of that company. The situation, as I said before, is people will go with the all-world growth funds and get a very, very small dividend, and actually sometimes you may find the dividend ones actually outperform it, which is pretty mental. And obviously, yes, different ETFs will play different roles here. You get different situations, different niches. You could go down some rabbit holes. But for me, these are the dividend ones, and obviously, yeah, dividend stocks can be a lot more stable. But remember, no single ETF does it all. That's the whole point here. You've got to have a bit of a spread. Dividend ETFs is all about consistency. That income will compound quietly, especially if you are reinvesting. And yes, don't forget, it's obviously a long-term game here. Christ, you're not going to get rich overnight, are you? But comment which ETF that I've given you as an idea here you like the most. And also, if you're not yet done so, watch this. If you are paying tax for whatever reason and you have a general investing account, get up to date.